Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Better Call Saul Season 6, Episode 5, Black and Blue. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Better Call Saul, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for Better Call Saul up to Season 6, Episode 5. If you have not seen up to this point, you will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So, frankly, this is the weakest episode of the season so far. It is, of course, a link in the chain, but unlike last week's episode, which is also like a link in the chain episode, it was very slow. I wouldn't want to say use the word filler per se, but I don't know. I think that word might actually be appropriate. Not saying it's a bad episode at all, but compared to the previous four, it was definitely not as strong. I will say that. So, in fact, I don't think this review is going to be very long because not much happened in this episode, to be honest. So, I don't really have much to say about it. The main point, we got a lot of scenes, like slow, drawn-out scenes that kind of reinforce the point that everyone's kind of holding their breath, waiting for Lalo to show up again, and then at the end of the episode, they actually show you where Lalo is, which is interesting. I'm glad they did that. So it's not like nothing happened in this episode to push the story forward, because, yeah, sure, some things did. They just took a long time to do it. But I think kind of the point of the episode, which is why I'm saying it's not a bad episode, is to draw out that anticipation that of where is Lalo, and this shows how it's affecting the characters. We see Kim freaked out, putting a chair on the door, thinking that Lalo might come and strike her. We see Gus freaking out and having almost like a panic attack when he was at Los Pollos Hermanos. And we see, Mike with all his men and still keeping an eye out and still looking for him. But still, I don't know if I would say this episode was entirely necessary. Now, as far as the Howard storyline, we got some traction with that. We find that Cliff confronts Howard about his drug problem, big air quotes there. And of course, Howard immediately knows something's up, and when Cliff mentions that he saw, him throw a prostitute out of his car when he was at a business meeting, he's like, well, per se, who was at this business meeting? And he says, well, I don't see the relevance there, but it was Kim Wexler. And he's like, uh-huh. And as soon as he said that, boom, he's like, I got a Jimmy McGill problem. And so he calls up Jimmy under false pretenses, gets him to come out to this gym and challenges him to a boxing match. And at first, Saul's like, you're ridiculous. Why would I do this? Why would I waste my time? And he's walking away. He's like, you see him stop and think, and you know what he's thinking? This is my chance to kick his ass, that arrogant shit. and then Howard is actually kind of smart in this regard because he knew it would work, and he does step in the ring. And, to be fair to good old Jimmy, he does get a few blows in, but of course Howard's the one who ends up really knocking him on his ass, which I kind of would have predicted. Howard seems to be more fit. Anyway, and plus Howard's the one who challenges, so you know that he was kind of planning for it. Anyway, Howard knows that that's not going to be the end of it, and so he hires a private detective, it looks, to track Jimmy. Now, I wonder if this might lead to some shenanigans, because, and Jimmy doesn't know this, Kim does, but Jimmy doesn't, that Mike's men are tracking Jimmy. And so if this private detective sees Mike's men, I wonder if Mike's men might kill him, or if something might go down between them. So, yeah, that's something interesting to think about. However, when Saul gets home And Kim sees his, they kind of cut to, she sees him come home with, nursing a bruise. And then they cut into him, like, trying to put something over it, and she's like, oh, you shouldn't try to hide it. You'd be like, oh, I'm Saul Goodman, I'll fight for you. Which I believe, if I recall correctly, is a direct reference to his commercial in Breaking Bad, where he does, in fact, say that. So they're trying to say this is the origin of that idea, which, we don't need origin stories for everything, but it was a nice little Easter egg. Anyway, and then when they go to bed, Saul's like, why would I do this? Why the hell did I do this? And Kim answers, well, because you know what's going to happen next. So this scene gives me the strong impression that they knew Howard would find out that it was him behind it, and they wanted it to happen, and that this is all part of the plan. Because, and at one point Howard even says to him, like, it's so obvious it's you, it's like you want to be caught. And I didn't realize that at the time, after this scene with Kim, I was like, well, maybe he did. Maybe that's exactly it. He did, in fact, Howard finding out that, Saul was trying to pull one on him was all part of the plan. Because at first when Howard found out, I was like, oh shit, they're in trouble now. They haven't planned for this. But that's why I was expecting Kim to kind of freak out, to be like, oh, what are we going to do now? Or freak out, how could you let Howard turn now? How are we going to deal with Howard? But instead, she wasn't worried. Instead, she just simply says, you're upset because you know what's going to happen next. Which it leads me to believe that they knew he'd find out. In fact, they wanted him to find out. Why? I don't know. It would be interesting to find out. Now, we also see another part of this plan unfold where Kim contacts her old apprentice, I think. Someone that she used to work with, who's now on the Sandpiper case from the opposite side, representing Sandpiper, and finds out that who is also in that case some former judge. Now, what they plan to do with that information, what does it have to do with the plan again? No clue. But as sort of, again, because we get these long scenes, we got this long scene with her at lunch, we get this long scene with Jimmy, and it's all like, just saying, hey, this is building blocks to this plan. What is that plan? I don't know. And of course, earlier in the episode, we also got the scene where Francesca comes back, and she, of course, was kind of pissed off with Jimmy. Or Saul, and at first refused to take the job because she felt slighted before because they let her go, and he offers her some cash. So this is also building towards Francesca's disposition, because in the earlier season of Better Call Saul, she's all happy and chipper. But in Breaking Bad, of course, she's very grumpy and doesn't actually care much about Saul, and just like, give me money. And so I guess this is sort of leading to that attitude, because she feels slighted for being fired or laid off, and is kind of just groping money out of him. And I think that relationship obviously is going to deteriorate even further. Well, I'm interested, and what is interesting, she said that she wants some say in how they're going to redecorate the place. I wonder if the whole Constitution on the wall thing was her idea. I don't know. Certainly, like, there was like this cage that she was in, this glass cage that separated her from the clients. I think that's definitely going to be her idea, and they had like a buzzer on the door to let people in. When Hugh's going to come in and become the security guard, I can't wait for that. Anyway, so at the end of the episode, we do get the scene of Lalo. We find out he's in Germany, following up the lead with Ziegler and Ziegler's widow, and sort of hitting on her at the bar to get information out of her. And he's not really getting much information out of her, because she doesn't really know much, because they purposely try to hide it. But the fact that they had all these lawyers and they were being secretive, and the men that he worked with didn't even come to the funeral. That's all telling in its own right. But he doesn't have anything concrete. And so it's funny because at the end, last time we saw Lalo, he says he's going to get proof. And we all assumed that he was going after Nacho. But apparently, no, this was his plan to go to Germany and get proof of what Gus was doing, building the underground lab. And so he breaks into her house, and it was a very intense scene when she came home and he pulled out the gun. And you're like, no, please don't kill her. And the episode ends, and I'm still not sure that he didn't kill her. Maybe, like, after she shut the window, he killed her, and maybe he climbed out the window, or maybe he left while she was closing the window. That's what I would hope. But it was a really intense scene nonetheless. And it's obvious that little thing, that ruler that was in the little glass thing or whatever the hell that was, that we saw being made in the intro, had something to do with it, and there was probably some evidence that Lalo needed. Now again, what is it? Like, why? What is it, and what's going on? And how does this help Lalo? No clue. Again, and so this is all a lot of small stuff building. So it is a necessary episode, but again, I kind of feel like it could have been like shorter and combined with the next episode. But we'll see. We'll see how the next episode goes. So, my rating for Black and Blue out of 10 is going to be a 7. Very good. It's a very good episode, and not excellent like the previous 4 episodes were, but still good. Still a good episode. Maybe moving a bit slower than I would have liked, but building the pieces, building the tension you had in that scene at the end, which had its own tension with it, and sort of doing the character building with Kim, and sort of building their plan, Kim and Saul's plan, and building some of the relationships between them. So it's a building episode. Anyway, that is it for my review for Black and Blue. I shall be back next week to cover the penultimate episode of the mid-season. That's a lot of words. So hopefully it's going to be a bit more exciting. Of course, every week after, cover the rest of Better Call Saul, so be sure to check me out for that. Also, I cover many other shows on my channel, such as the expanded Star Wars Rebels, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and in fact, all things Star Trek. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks so much for watching.